Okay. What first and foremost, Rob?
Hey, buddy.
Have you turned on the heat in your house? Yeah. Yeah. No, dude, it was freezing on. Like I think it was like mid last week, I guess. Middle last week, Wednesday or Thursday. It was freezing. So 100% turned on the heat.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else is toughing it out.
No,
but it was
dude,
hella cold.
my wife had we had the windows all open and everything else, and I was like, guys, it's getting kind of cold in here. I'm like, no, it's fine. My kids got the fans going. My son has a ceiling fan plus a fan pointing at him, and his windows wide open. And I get up early in the morning, John, and it like my floors are frozen. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm looking at my phone. The temperature is like 18 degrees. I'm like, this can't stand. So when everybody left to go to school and to work, I shut all the windows and I cranked that heat up. I don't remember the last time I put heat on in September, but I've done it a couple of times because my house is too damn cold.
Yeah. I resisted for like the first morning I resisted because I was going out. You know, when you turn it on, when you first turn it on, you get like a little bit of a burning smell because the dust and whatever is in there. So that always makes me paranoid. You know, I wish someone would call me up and ask me if I needed services to clean, my air ducts and stuff like that.
If only you had those calls coming.
Yeah, if only people would call and check in.
Right.
And I would be able to just go, hey, yeah, I actually do need these cleaned.
As it turns out, I do need you. I do need you, Frank. Please come over and clean my ducts for me.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't spam. But what's up, folks? Welcome to the Sidekick Show shoutouts. Fraser said he's got his heat on.
Yeah.
Yes, Fraser's got the heat on. Yep. Yeah. Hey, what's up? So what's up, Fraser? What's up, Steve? I see Lewis is in there. I see Dino's in there. What's up, guys? Sorry, Rob, go on.
No, man. It's cold, John. I know last fall was atrociously cold and wet. And these last few days have not been that great. I think Saturday wasn't that bad, but like it pissed rain all day yesterday. Yeah. And today wasn't too bad. It was a bit breezy, but it wasn't too bad. I still have my pool open. I have one more week of my pool. So I am endeavoring. This coming weekend is supposed to be like, I think 20.
Oh, okay.
I'm cranking that sucker up to 90 degrees, and I don't care. I'm throwing the family in for one last hurrah. So
get your money's worth out of that pool that like just got fixed. I feel like
yes, it did. Yeah, just a few short weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, over the weekend, a lot of the customers that came into the shop were all wearing winter jackets, which was kind of funny. It was kind of funny to see. People were like in shock. They were like, "Oh, let me put this on." But what's up, folks? Welcome to the Sidekick Show. We are going to be talking about what are we talking about today, Rob?
Oh boy, the furious road of Mad Max.
Mad Max and all the nuttiness. I'm sure Rob's got a crazy breakdown, which is going to be filled with all kinds of nutty stuff for this movie. I do question if it is in fact a sequel or if it's a reboot or whatever. We're going to debate all those things, folks. So stay tuned for that. We do want to find out what you guys are up to this weekend. So this is an interactive live stream. If you are not watching this on the live Monday nights at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, please join us so you can get your questions in, feedback in there, all that kind of fun stuff if you're watching this on the replay. So Rob, what did I know you got to do something for this weekend? Let me see. I think I grabbed a picture of it. I think you got to see something that on your own in the theaters or
Yeah, so listen, a couple weeks ago, I guess it was a couple months ago, we did a re-review of Clerks II. And I was very much excited to go and see the new one that was coming into theaters. However, Kevin Smith's known for doing his road show, right? Like he takes his movie out on the road and he does a Q&A and it's a whole thing. And it's coming to Toronto in October. However, last week for a few short days, Clerks 3 was in theaters. And so on Wednesday, myself and it turned out to be one other individual who you may not be able to see. I don't know why it looks all grayed out on the screen, but it was just the two of us in the theater. But whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
It was an experience to be in these really nice, comfy seats by myself. To the fact, actually, I had paid for the nice seats, and he had paid for the regular seats, which are very nice themselves, but I had upgraded. I almost wanted to say, dude, there's nobody here. If you want to come down and check out the, I put my seat warmer on.
I ain't gonna tell. I ain't gonna tell, right? I ain't gonna snitch. So just come on.
Nobody's gonna know, bro.
No, maybe they don't activate it. Like, I don't know if you have the D box where you guys are.
No.
But the D box for us, it's the motion seats. They don't activate unless you actually buy a ticket. So all the seats basically are dead unless you buy a ticket. Whatever, it doesn't move. You could totally sneak over and sit in one of those seats if you wanted, but you're not going to get the motion.
No,
so maybe they turn off the heat.
Recliners, but these special ones are a different type of chair, and then you have a heater, and I cranked that up because Wednesday was chilly. So
yeah, imagine if the heating ability is disabled and the reclining feature. Wouldn't that be the funniest thing on the planet? There's like a little device in there, but they're like, nope, if you didn't pay for this ticket, this seat is not reclining. You can sneak and steal these seats all you want, but that would be mad jokes. So,
but I did get to see the movie.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what do you think? I know you're a big fan. Clerks 1, Clerks 2, right?
Yeah.
Your top Kevin's up there in your Kevin Smith movies, obviously, right? Does Clerks 3 live up to the hype?
It lives up to the hype, but if we're going in expecting the jokes that we got in number 2, you're not going to get that. This feels like a very good mixture of both of those movies, of 1 and 2. But I feel like it skews more towards the first one, but it's full of heart. And during the course of the movie, I was like, oh, I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about this. And then towards the end of it, I was like, wow, I'm really enjoying this. And afterwards, we've talked about, you and I were clerks, John.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, it's kind of like I've grown up with these guys in 30 over, 28 years or whatever it was. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. I would recommend somebody going out and checking it out, or at least, when it comes on streaming, to rent it or whatever. I will say, though, the one thing is it felt very budget. Like it really felt really constrictive. They only had like the same 4 or 5 actors rotating through. So it felt very budget to me at times, but at the end of the day, it was all about the story and the heart, and I loved it. So I would highly recommend seeing Clerks.
Do you think maybe it was because of COVID, or do you think it was just that was the budget that they were going with?
No, I think you're right. I think there was COVID. I think you can only have a certain number of people probably doing scenes at one time. So I think they probably just had it constricted down. But again, it was a lot more touching than I was expecting it to be. Yeah. Like you could tell Kevin Smith, use a different flair, a flair for the dramatic, but not in a crazy psycho way. Yeah. It was really...
the trailer. You watch the trailer. It looks like they have written in the whole, like, these guys have aged into the storyline, which is, I think, what you have to do. Cobra Kai did it, and a lot of other things. Legacy sequels have basically done it. When we get to Mad Max, we'll talk about what happened there with Max being a completely different character. And anything else that you get up to, Rob? And anyone in the comments, let us know. Let us know if you're still up on House of the Dragon. Let us know if you're on Lord of the Rings, She-Hulk, or whatever you might have checked out this weekend.
I know for me, I finished For All Mankind.
Finally.
Yeah, so season 3 is in the books. It was good. I haven't watched last night's House of the Dragon. It's probably on tap for tonight because I was watching Mad Max Fury Road last night. I feel like I watched something else, but I can't remember what it was. So obviously it wasn't that important. How about you, buddy? What was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend? You were away for a couple of days.
Yeah. We popped out to Great Wolf Lodge for a second. It was like late in the week, though. We just went for an overnighter to check it out. My daughters had a lot of fun. So I do recommend checking it out, especially
that was your first time.
Yeah. If your kids are a little bit older, if your kids are a little on the younger side, you might not have as much fun. But
did you have fun?
I had to watch my youngest one. I got to go down one of the slides, but they have one slide that's like it drops you through the bottom or something.
The wolf tail, buddy.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to check that out. I don't know if I would have checked it out, but people were saying it was actually a ton of fun. But let me see. What did I get to check out? I'm still really enjoying American Gigolo. I don't know if you checked it out on Crave yet, Rob, with John Branthau. Look at this guy. Like, look at the shape he's in for this show that is like it's like a thriller mystery show. And like I said last episode, I'm like, I didn't originally want the Punisher back or his version of the Punisher back, but after watching the show and seeing him on stuff like We Own This City and stuff like that, he's such a good performer that I kind of do want to see him come back. So we'll see what happens with that. I do recommend it. It's a very gritty, crazy show that has Rosie O'Donnell in it, playing like a kind of like a no nonsense old school cop, which is actually a role that suits her pretty well, and it even has Wayne Brady in it in a very kind of funny surprise role. Yeah, so definitely check it out, folks. I also did randomly stumble. I think you recommended this to me, Rob, or at least you mentioned it to me. It's called Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks on Netflix, which is kind of like a history of like Hong Kong or martial arts cinema. And it's fun. You definitely can put it on in the background. They kind of cover a lot of the Bruce Lee era and the Jackie Chan era, and then they kind of stop. So you don't get Jet Li or some of the later performers. I think Scott Adkins does show up for a second. So I do maybe, you know what, it's 2019. Maybe they didn't maybe it was done and filmed even further before that. But it's a lot of fun if you want to turn something in the background. And it did make me want to dig up a whole bunch of my old movies. But yeah, like Rob said, House of the Dragon, I think I'm behind an episode as well. Lord of the Rings, I don't think I check back in. I don't know if I'm going to until maybe it comes out and it's and people recommend it. So I don't know about that one. Rob, you're waiting for all of it?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for it all to drop. I'm gonna rewatch episode 1 because, to be honest with you, I don't really remember much of episode 1. I remember just not really enjoying it, but I don't think I gave it a fair shot. I think it was just bad timing. Everybody's talking about Game of Thrones. That's the reality. There's no buzz for Lord of the Rings. And so I don't know what Amazon was thinking. Maybe they figured that they were going to knock Game of Thrones out, but they are the Buster Douglas, and unfortunately they did not beat Mike Tyson this time. So
they did not take the champ out.
No.
So yeah, it is funny how the media, I guess the coverage is so slanted. So let's check in with the folks in the chat. So Steve said he's catching up on Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk dropped a new patch. And with the popularity of the anime, which is kind of on my next to watch list, I just got to wait for the kiddies to not be around because it is uber violent. But several people recommended it to me. It looks like Cyberpunk stock is going up. Rob, did you ever try this game? I think you said it wasn't for you, right? It's RPG.
Yeah, no, it has some RPG elements. I didn't try it because all I heard about were just the atrocious, the gameplay, the issues, the bugs. Like, you know, was it Project Red or CD Red or whatever the company, the developer was? Like, it was just horrible, right? So I was like, I'm out. But as you know, John, I have a PS5, and so it will probably be something I would pick up if I see it, you know, maybe in sometime in 2023. There's a couple of games coming out the next few months I really am jazzed to grab. So I will probably, you know, take a look at it just to kind of see if it's up my alley. It's, you know, I think it's kind of, and I could be wrong, I think it's like a Deus Ex Machina. So you know, it's got some RPG, but some elements. So if it's like that, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, I felt like it leaned a little more towards the RPG side, but
okay, I'm out.
People can, others can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can just kind of run and gun if you kind of want.
Put it this way: if it's like the old school Knights of the Old Republic, where you pushed a button and then the guy did all the lightsaber stuff, you couldn't control it. I'm done. I don't need to have.
Okay, no, you are still taking the gun like Destiny. Destiny is technically an RPG, but it felt very much like a Halo shooter at points, right? So I think it might be the good hybrid that you might be able to check out. Lewis says he's caught up on Lower Decks, She-Hulk, Rings of Power, She-Hulk. Rob, not another episode with no end credit scene. Were you disappointed again, or were you like, I guess this is what's going on?
In fact, I was sitting there, I was like, please no giant peach. Please no giant peach. And boom, the giant peach of Georgia popped up. And I was like, God, man, what the hell, man? But dude, I was laughing my ass off in this episode, man. I thought it was hilarious.
I really enjoyed this episode, people. If you haven't seen it, I think the title is called Just Jen or something like that. And it's kind of like an adventure that seemingly doesn't have She-Hulk. And I actually thought it was a lot of fun. So I think this is where the show is gonna really start to shine. And if you don't like it, I feel like you've already stopped tuning in. So hopefully people are still watching it that liked it. Fraser said he's watched Rings, She-Hulk, and Andor. Rob, we did watch Andor. Did you get through it? I got through 3 episodes. I didn't mind it.
I got through the first one. I was really distracted and not really. I just it felt really slow and. But I've been hearing like in some podcasts I've listened to and some other people I've seen online that it's kind of like a highbrow sci-fi stuff, and that the director said, "Listen, I want to tell a good story. I don't care if it's a Star Wars story per se."
Yeah.
So that in and of itself has intrigued me enough to say, you know what? Okay, fine, because I like Rogue One quite a bit, but I always thought Diego Luna's character was like a throwaway. Like, I don't give a shit about Cassian Andor. Like, who cares? So the whole idea that we're having this, and I'm not gonna be on. I'll be honest with you, John. Really, aside from The Mandalorian, and only really half of the total Mandalorian episodes we've ever gotten, most of the Star Wars shows are just kind of boring. So, like, really, at the end of the day, they're kind of forgettable. I forgot we watched Obi-Wan Kenobi just a few short months ago.
I think we would all like to forget that we watched Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So I guess I'm kind of going in jaded, but I think I do it. I need to be able to give it a go. There's other shows right now that seem like I want to get caught up on. So
there's a lot of great content to consume. So I can totally see you abandoning ship after one episode and maybe revisiting it. Andre and the Star Wars crew did do a full in-depth review of Andor season episode 1, 2, and 3. So check that out on our feed. I think it's good, and I think it's good that it's genre. So if you don't like this kind of spy thriller genre, then move on to the next show. If you do, then this show is going to work for you. I think these shows need to be more kind of in their niche.
Yeah.
So let's see. Lewis says he doesn't care about Game of Thrones. Yeah, fair enough, Lewis. I think you along with me did not watch the original seasons. So let's see. Lewis says, yeah, Cyberpunk is worth playing. Yeah, he was hardcore into it, so I'm not surprised to see that. Dino says She-Hulk has been enjoyable. Fraser says Andor is super slow. And I hear you, Fraser. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Dino says Andor was pretty good. And his wife asked to watch Rogue One. Yeah, to know what's going on. I have not watched Rogue One in its entirety.
Oh, wow.
I still enjoyed the Andor show. And to your point, and I think they make this point during Andre's Star Wars crew review, I didn't like that Andor character at all in that movie. Yeah. And in the show, I kind of I have sympathy for him. I kind of like see what he's about. So that's kind of cool. So first episode didn't catch you, Rob, but they dropped 3 episodes.
Yeah. Always a bad sign.
Yeah. So you don't appreciate the 3-episode drop. You were just like, no, 1 episode. I got it.
You know what? I always thought this is great. We're being spoiled with riches. And then you get to the first one, you're like, oh. And then you get to the second one, you're like, And then the third one, you're like, okay, now I see why they dropped 3 episodes, right? Like, I think they did it with WandaVision, right? You're like, if they only released that first episode, you'd be like, I don't know if I really want to watch it.
I think, it didn't catch you, but for me, I feel like it did need at least a 2-3 episode drop because it kind of doesn't reveal much, and you need kind of 3 episodes to kind of get a little bit into it. Yeah, Dino says the end of Rogue One. Yeah, I have seen the end of Rogue One, which is a very cool scene, and I feel like everybody's going to see that one. But thank you everybody for sharing your weekend with us. Rob, anything else you want to talk about from the weekend?
Well, no. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I just got this, John.
What do you got? What do you got?
Kind of live unbox it, even though I've already tested it out a little bit. So there's a company called, first of all, John, I've talked about this before. I'm going on a trip. And I've fallen down a YouTube rabbit hole of checking out tech gadgets and this and that because I may or may not have purchased a new Apple.
You're watching a lot of MK DHB or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I may or may not have purchased a new Apple iPhone. At any rate, I fell on this rabbit hole of this company called Backbone, who makes an iOS based controller like for your phone. And PlayStation had just came out with a branded version of the Backbone. So you can actually, I'm going to unbox it while I talk about this thing. You can actually you download the app onto your iPhone, and then you can sync it up to your PS Rumble Play. So whether it's your PS4, your PS5, or they have it for Xbox as well. But check out this controller, man. Look at this.
Is it specifically? I see the Lightning port, right? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
They do have one coming for Android. So what you do, man, is you take your phone, say hello, phone.
Yeah.
You put it in here.
Do you have a bigger iPhone, Rob, or do you have one
right now? I'm rocking an iPhone 11, but I do have another phone on its way.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how much we're able to show, but at any rate, you can now sync it up to your PlayStation.
Okay. And you
And
can play games.
yeah, you can actually stream your game. So if I'm up in bed and I can't
playing
sleep,
like a full good game without
yeah, you can
lag.
play. I can pick up Fortnite, or I'm Ghost of Tsushima, and I can play it through my phone or my iOS games. If you have any iOS games or whatever,
Yeah.
or the Apple Arcade, you can same with your Xbox Cloud Pass. So yeah, so I can just sign into my PS5, and off I go, and I can play as long as I have a wireless connection. Or, well, I mean, I guess if I'm using LTE or whatever. But yeah, so this is my new little toy. I gotta say, John, I got this in this afternoon. I'm quite loving this thing because I plan on like downloading a couple of games onto my phone so I can play.
Yeah, I never got into playing games on my phone, but I've never had a crazy controller attachment, right?
But yeah, so the original backbone is black, and it has like the Xbox buttons. But this one, I don't know if you can see it, John. It has the PlayStation ones. It has the triangle, square, X, and circle. So it matches your PlayStation controller.
Okay.
And yeah, man. Like,
okay, don't break the stuff. But all right, cool. Yeah, you'll have to report back to us on that one. I don't think I would get enough.
You asked me. I do have another phone coming.
Yeah.
It's sometime in the next 30 days. And it will. There's a bumper. It comes with a bumper to allow for the bigger camera bump outs on your phone. So yes, it will play nerdy. the bigger phones.
Incredibly nerdy, but okay, yeah, cool to playing on the mobile. One of those things, like sometimes you don't always have access to your TV, or maybe your kids are using it, or you're waiting between classes or pickups or whatever.
Yeah.
So you know that dad or that parent life hashtag or whatever. So yeah, shout outs to that. Looking forward to hearing your tech update. So we'll keep.
I will do an update on this thing. I will do an update and report back once I
so
really give it
we'll see if he's gonna be keeping it for another year, or it's gonna be on his Facebook Marketplace. It'll be that ad that says, brand practically new, out of box, tried once, put back in box like new. It'll be one of those listings. It'll be like $10 off the retail price or whatever. But yeah, shout outs to that. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. I will shout out the Heroes World Facebook and Instagram streams that I did post the new comic book releases. We have this brand new TMNT book based off of the video game that we all played during the summer. So shout outs to that. And there is also a new Sergeant Rock versus like zombies book coming out. So shout out to Sergeant Rock. And then I will mention, since we're going to be talking about Mad Max, check out our affiliate links down in the description. You could pick up a copy of Mad Max Black and Chrome Edition, which looks pretty hot. We do have in stock the Mad Max Fury Road comic book, which I'll talk a little bit more about as we talk about the movie, or you could order it off Amazon and use our affiliate link. And then they do have a very nice art book as well that I can get in at the shop. So if you want to buy things from the shop, let me know. I'll hook you up. But let's get to Rob. Is there any breaking news this week?
Let me take a look at my phone and see if anything has broken.
Anything has broken. You posted that a new trailer came out today, though, right? That's a big deal.
So usually what happens is we all, Andre, myself, John, and Stu, we have a little chat, and if anything kind of breaks in the world of geekdom, we always send each other these links and say, hey, check out these trailers or news stories. And so I go through before I take all the news that we usually do on Mondays. I go, oh, here's all the stories that we post about. Sometimes, like Lewis will send me stuff. So I went through everything, and there was nothing really worth mentioning. I'll run it down for you really quickly, John. The producers of James Bond have said, listen, we're still looking. The next actor we're hiring needs to be able to commit to the role for 10 to 12 years. Okay, done. That being said, there's a pretty cool James Bond documentary coming out on Amazon Prime October the 5th called The Music of James Bond, but whatever. Let me see. What else happened, John? There is good news for you as a fan of Beverly Hills Cop. all of the actors from the first two movies are coming back, including John Ashton, who I swear to God I thought had died a few years ago.
he probably retired. He probably retired from movie making. So
I thought he died. I swear to God. Yeah, Judge Reinhold, John Ashton, and Bronson Pinchot are coming back, and I was very surprised John Ashton is actually still walking around and alive.
I'm very happy to hear that Balki Bartokomous is back for this.
There you go. And then Scanners. There's a movie back in the 80s, John. It was actually a Canadian movie called Scanners, directed by David Cronenberg, that I actually kind of really liked, and then they made a whole bunch of really crappy direct-to-video sequels. But they're now making a television series based on the movie Scanners, which I thought was a pretty cool. I always thought this would be a great show if it ever came back. And so I guess the people, I think it's up at Amazon, heard me and said, hey, let's make it a show. So in terms of news, John, that's it. Aside from a big trailer that dropped today for The Last of Us, the HBO television show based on the video game by Naughty Dog for the PlayStation. We've talked about this. You know how much of a huge fan I am of this game and this property. They filmed, I believe, 2 seasons. Now, I could be wrong, but they filmed for 10 or 11 months out in Calgary and the wilderness of Alberta. And so they released just at noon today Eastern the trailer, about a minute and a half. And did you get a chance to watch it?
I did watch it, yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Okay, I am not familiar with this game at all, other than I believe it is some type of survival horror, possibly zombie vehicle. So to me, it did look like there was a lot of money on the screen, but it's not really my jam. It looked like another Walking Dead-ish thing to me. So you being a fan of the game, I feel like I have more attachment. So let me know what you thought. I feel like I'm not giving it a fair shake. I'll have to actually watch and see what the context of these.
I would really like it. I would love it for you to play the game. Here's my only concern. First of all, the trailer looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks good. It looked good with the big crane shots and the snow setting and everything. Like it looked expensive.
The game itself is directed by Neil Druckmann, who is very heavily involved in this series, which is always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because the game in its its sequel part 2, but The Last of Us is very, very story driven. John, there are moments in the first game that force you to stop. As an example, very quickly, you're going through this old it's a university or college. Everything's overrun, right? The society's broken down, and you start to see, because the zoos have all been overrun and stuff like that. You see giraffes walking, and the game forces you to stop and just look at the sun setting while the giraffes are walking by. Like, it evokes a lot of emotion out of this when you're playing this game, more so than probably anything I've really experienced, aside from maybe Red Dead Redemption towards the end of that. Of part 2. So all that to say that this is a very story deep game. And I'm going to say, based on the trailer that they released today, they are hitting it 98%. I am super jazzed to watch this. I'm excited to see it. I think they're going to do really well. I fear that my expectations won't be met. I'd rather they be exceeded or at least met. But I'm very, very stoked to see how this plays out.
Yeah, well, you have to have some trust that this is under the HBO umbrella, right? I feel like a lot of these HBO shows are of a higher caliber than some of the other shows we watch on some of the other streaming services. So you got to trust them a little bit. This game, I feel like this is the game where I realized I'm not really a video gamer, because when this game came out, Last of Us, the first one, it was one of those games that actually sold out and you couldn't find it anywhere. Like this is unheard of typically, right? You know, you go get your copy of Grand Theft Auto, EB would have like a stack like freaking 20 plus high of copies they're just selling that day. And I had to track one down, and I found it, and I don't even remember playing it, Rob. I feel like I got it, and I was like, I got it because it's gone, and I couldn't have it. I have it. I don't remember playing it at all. So
you probably didn't, because my brother-in-law came over and I let him play the first 20 minutes because something happens, and it rocked him. And like, this is like a tough guy, this and that. He's like, bro, why did you make me play this? Like the emotion attached to something happening like shook him. Here's the game, John. It came out many years ago for the PlayStation 3, and then they remastered it for the PlayStation 4 because it was such a huge hit. And then, John, they've just once again redone it. They've remastered the whole thing. A whole bunch of, use their new engine to update the graphics to make a PS5 version of the game. It's the exact same game.
The third remaster.
Yes. And Steve just asked if I paid $80 for what they're calling Last of Us Part 1. No, I didn't. I have it on the PS4. It's, I can play it on my 5. It's good enough. If it ever drops down in price to like the $30, I would probably get it again because like that's one game, John, I've played maybe 6-7 times. It is so good.
Yeah. My brother has hyped it up. He said he's played every remake they did of it. So I'll have to dust it off. I'm gonna find my copy. I feel like I must have played it at least once, but whatever. I learned I was not a true gamer. Rob, can I hit you with some rumors that I saw online then?
Yeah, buddy, hit me with your rumors.
Okay. So first rumor I saw was that Jessica Jones is out and possibly Punisher is returning for Daredevil Reborn. What do you think of that?
No, I'll be happy with that because I really Jessica Jones as a character. People love that comic, the Alias comic book series. They love her character. I didn't care. I didn't have any attachment to it pre the Netflix show, and nothing against Kristen Ritter, but the show as a whole, I was like, meh, I didn't really care for it. So I'm fine with that. It's a 19-episode series they're making for Daredevil. Yeah.
So
it's not out till like 2024 or 5. So, I'm sure there's going to be Spider-Man is probably going to be rumored to be in it at this point. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. Obviously, it is not being picked up by like that news story has not been picked up by any major.
Let me guess. It was Cosmic News.
Yeah. It was one of those other. Yeah, I saw it pop up on a couple of those like shady sites. And then the other thing I saw was someone took some like sentence from a Deadline article or something and said like Marvel is trying to tap Zack Snyder to do the next project or something like that. I don't know if you saw that article or not.
I didn't. So listen, I
think it was a Star Wars.
What's that?
Avengers Secret Wars. Yeah.
Well, no, so they've already got the director for that. So the individual who directed Shang-Chi?
Yeah. Daniel Dustin, yeah.
He's doing one of them. And the director of the second one, or the first one, whichever one it is, I can't remember who it is now, but they've already announced the directors for those. Zack Snyder's busy making his Rebel Moon, which was his Star Wars movie, his pitch for Star Wars. And it never, they were kind of like humming and hawing. And he goes, all right, well, I'm going to keep it. And he just retooled, took out some of the names of stuff. So he's got his, and it comes on Netflix in 2023. So it's Rebel Moon. But that's his Star Wars movie. I'm sure he's busy with that.
Yeah, no, it's just funny when you're scrolling by and you see some of these articles pop up. I just thought it'd be funny to
Hulk Hogan remaking Three Ninjas.
Oh, man. I want a Surf Ninjas reboot. So
Ninjas, that's what I meant.
Surf Ninjas popping up. Suburban Commando would be a funny one to come back to. I remember actually quite liking it when I was.
I'm actually really surprised they've never remade No Holds Barred.
I don't know about if that's ever going to happen. But all right, Rob. So that's it for the news. That's it for rumors. Light news week, folks. Thanks for kicking it with us. So I guess we should get to Mad Max. We're already at the 30-minute mark. So let's talk Mad Max Fury Road. Rob, do you want to give your breakdown, or do you want to talk a little bit about the original Mad Max trilogy before you give your breakdown?
Well, we can just jump into the breakdown, then we can talk about these. You can leave these up if you like.
I'll switch it. Yeah. So Rob's got our breakdown on Mad Max, which I don't know how in depth you went on this, Rob, because I know a lot of the details for this movie are kind of bonkers out there, right?
Yeah, I didn't
all
get
the
into
things
too
that
much.
happened to it. Yeah.
So back in 1979, John, all the way back in 1979, when I was just a sweet little lad of 3 years old, George Miller wrote and directed Mad Max starring Mel Gibson, which spawned Mad Max 2 and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome in 1985, co-starring the $1 Million Legs, Tina Turner, which we thought was the end of Max Roktansky until 2015's Mad Max Fury Road. The post-apocalyptic action movie is once again written and directed by George Miller. with Tom Hardy stepping into the role of Max and co-starring Charlize Theron as Imperator Furiosa. I'm just going to call her Furiosa from now on. Released May 14th, 2015. The budget for the movie was around $170 million and took in $375.5 at the box office. Now, according to Miller, about 90% of the movie's effects were shot practically, including that crazy guitar dude, the guy with the guitar who was attached to the thing, and the flames.
Doof Warrior or something, I think they call him. Or some, he's got a weird name, yeah.
That guitar was fully functional and actually spit out flames. Now there were about 150 stunt performers involved in the production.
Yeah, he said he had to hit the whammy bar, and then the flames would shoot out. Imagine that in Rockstar. In Rockstar, you're like,
that's right. There was 150 stunt performers involved, some of whom were the famous Cirque du Soleil performers. Now, Tom
100%
Hardy
makes sense. 100% makes sense when you watch it.
Tom Hardy went on to to state that he had a really tough time seeing Miller's vision of the movie, which frustrated him and may have led John to some on-set behavior issues with cast and co-stars. But after seeing the finished film, during his Cannes press briefing, Hardy issued a very lengthy apology to Miller, calling him quote unquote brilliant. Miller's wife is the one who edited the film, and because they shot so much footage, it actually took 3 months to watch all of the footage before she was able to figure out how to edit the thing down. Now, Miller was contractually obligated, John, to deliver a PG-13 film, but Warner Brothers decided to hold different test screenings, a PG version, a Miller version, and obviously the latter one won out. So the studio rightly decided to release the R-rated version. Now, before we talk about the movie itself, John, let's talk casting. Ready? Hear who was in the running to play Max before Tom Hardy finally sealed it.
Go. I think I've heard these before. Yeah, go.
Jeremy Renner.
No way. I didn't hear that. Okay.
Michael Fassbender.
That would have been hella interesting. Yeah.
Joel Kinnaman.
Okay, my guy Joel Kinnaman wouldn't have worked at all.
What's that?
Wouldn't have worked at all.
No. Heath Ledger.
This is the main one I heard, and I think they actually were really gearing for him, and then tragic events, of course. But might have worked.
Eric Bana.
Okay, yeah, he was cool in Troy.
He's Australian, right?
Yeah, no, he could have done the accent. Yeah,
yeah, and even John Eminem, who
get out of town.
Eminem did not want to leave the United States, so they dropped him. And former friend of the show, John, Armie Hammer.
House of Hammer.
Of course, they were all considered during.
He would have fit in a Mad Max setting.
Yeah, it was a barbecue fiesta. All of these were considered during different stages of development, which in itself, John, took about 12 to 13 years. So.
Originally Mel Gibson was supposed to reprise his role
until he got himself into some trouble.
Yeah, and it took like a million years for this movie to come out.
Well, yeah, and so we can talk about that because there was a lot of production issues. They were about to ramp up, and then 9/11 happened, and a whole bunch of things started going on, and yeah. So the only question I have for you, buddy, is: are you going down the road less traveled or the Fury Road?
The Fury. Witness me, Rob. Witness. Man. All right, let's talk quickly just about the history. So this original trilogy, Rob touched on it. I think the third one was rated PG-13 or PG, hence why I guess this one was probably supposed to follow suit. But how much of this do you remember? I don't think I've ever seen the original one, the original Mad Max, where he's kind of like a rogue cop getting revenge for his family. Yeah. I know 2 is probably the one that I watched the most late night on City TV or whatever, late night movie channel was on. And I think me and my buddy were enamored by the whole idea and things like that. And then Beyond the Thunderdome, I don't really remember much of either, other than maybe Tina Turner. But how attached to these original movies were you? And you guys in the comments, let us know how much of these original movies did you watch? Did you watch them on repeat? I feel like maybe it was the generation before us. I don't know.
Yeah, so I have such a vague, limited memory of these movies. I know that I've seen them. I know that I watched the first one. Again, John, I feel like my dad had it recorded it from like First Choice or one of those channels. We had watched it.
It would have been like 1979 or something like that, right?
Well, yeah, so but there was no, it would have been in the 80s. Like it was like the early 80s, like 83, 84, 85 is when I probably would have seen it. Mad Max 2 would have been around that time. And then Thunderdome was 85 itself. So I did see a couple of those, but to be honest with you, they're just flashes. Like they're not really a lot of, I don't have I remember specific plot points. I just remember thinking Tina Turner, this is crazy shit based on, because I remember thinking number 2 was so cool. And then the Tina Turner stuff, it was just like, this is out of control. What is happening here?
Yeah.
So but I don't really remember this, but I kind of think I want to go back and watch these again.
Yeah. I think I want to at least watch the trailers for them and see if I want to go back. I feel like number 2 is probably the only one I'm going to be able to actually get through again. Because of the PG-13 that followed in the third movie. But Steve mentions, he mostly just knows the pop culture references and the setting that it's created. So Fallout games, before Fallout, there was a game called Wasteland, which shared a similar idea. So this post-apocalyptic setting, which has become so popular and adored by people, like in general, like one of the most popular X-Men series is Age of Apocalypse, which is in this destroyed Earth setting. So like just Mad Max and I didn't know George Miller was like when I saw the new movie, I was like, oh, is this the same director and he's the same director from all these movies? I didn't know that.
70, he was 79, I think, or something. Like he's not a spring chicken.
Yeah. So it's crazy that he kind of created a lot of this lore and things that we kind of really dig nowadays, right? We kind of all dig this setting or this idea for entertainment, I guess. Two good point, Fraser. 2 is the SNM Jason, which is the guy who's wearing just like underwear and a hockey mask, I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I don't like you said, I think it was a little bit before our time for us to really, really be into this. Although I really love the Interceptor. Which is the car that he drives, which is an old Ford Falcon from like 73 or something like that, which proceeds to get destroyed in like the first scene of this new movie. But let's get into it then, Rob. Let's talk the new movie. First of all, when you watch this movie, Rob, so I just planned out a bunch of stuff, Rob, so we'll just chop it up and see how it goes. Is it a reboot or sequel? Did it feel like a sequel to you when you first watched it?
I kind of touched on this last
let's go back to like how you felt when you first. I think we actually share the same thought. So go ahead when you first watched this movie, during all the mad hype for this movie, despite it being considered a box office disappointment, I think.
No, it was a box office hit.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I didn't go to the theater to see it.
Yeah, me neither.
I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to see that. I don't know. And then a long time ago, a friend of mine said, hey, man, I have a Cody box. Do you want to borrow it? And I was like, all right, I'll check this thing out. And I had it for maybe 15 days. And in that time, I watched Mad Max Fury Road. And I did not like the movie.
Yeah.
And I said to my buddy, I said, give it back to him. I said, man, this movie is crap. He goes, are you kidding me? This is like a wicked ass movie. It's so good. I'm like, nah, I wasn't really into it. I thought it was kind of boring. I guess, I don't know. Maybe I only saw half the movie, John, because a whole bunch of shit happened in this movie. I was like, I don't remember any of this. And my opinion has completely flipped 180 degrees. I really enjoyed this movie. So much so, John, that I would probably look to pick up a 4K version of this movie because it above and beyond anything, it looks gorgeous. Like it is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. I figured you were going to really appreciate like some of those cinematic shots when you see the red desert sand and they pan up and you see the big tracking shots of the convoys running.
Loved it.
And they show off the distance between the convoys. It's very, I guess you might say Danny Villeneuve-ish. Right, so we'll throw in a Dune reference there.
There you go, buddy.
But I think I'm on the same page as you. But I will mention that some people do watch these things on Cody boxes or things like that, and I think it's a huge disservice to the movie. So much so that when I talk to certain people and they watch a lot of content, I'm like, "How did you watch it?" And they're like, "Oh, I watched a pirate or bootleg." And I'm like, "I can't really take your opinion because the movie doesn't. You don't see everything. Things are pixelated. They're not in the full sound and visual quality. So do try and support. Rob was trying something, he got rid of it. He doesn't do that type of stuff anymore, and I think a lot of people kind of shied away from that now. But I like when the hype hit, I was kind of like, okay, let me check this out. And for some reason, I didn't like it either, Rob. I watched it and I was kind of like, I don't know about this. And then upon this rewatch, I don't know what I was thinking back then. I love this, especially if you're into cars. Like, I'm sure Fraser is going to be able to jump in here on these
no pun
things that they
intended with
created.
Jumping.
Yeah. This is Fraser up in the top corner with the two spears. But I feel like anyone who kind of appreciates Jesse James used to have that show, and
that's right. Yeah.
A lot of those shows where or Mythbusters, they've all, anyone that creates works of art out of
American
hunks
Chopper
of metal,
and
all those types of shows will really appreciate these vehicles that they built. And I think at one point they did sell a whole bunch of them off, which is really interesting. I'd love to see one driving around on the road at some point. But something about this movie is just so visceral.
Yeah.
And the way it's put together is really great. I know this director, Miller, he's known to kind of want to leave things vague and kind of want to let people put things together and leave it kind of a little bit open, which maybe I didn't appreciate at the time. Maybe I wanted the A, B, C, like, the story, the arc that's like your hero is this.
You want to be
spoon-fed the whole... and then he kind of becomes this, and then he's the hero or redeemable at the end. So I think I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, for me, I remember when we were going to go back and watch this for today's episode, I was thinking to myself, like, the one thing I always hate is, like, it's called Mad Max. The guy is tied to a car for like 90% of the movie, and he doesn't speak. And I was like, what the hell? But again, my memory was completely wrong. It's not 90%; it's maybe 45%. But it just felt, watching it this time, like such a more visceral, as you said, engulfing experience. So I'm all on board for the Fury Road. I'm almost kicking myself for not having, for whatever reason, maybe it was just a bad day. Sometimes you're if you're watching something and you're just not in the mood to actually appreciate it, and you're like,
yeah, it possibly is a result of the overhyping. If everyone comes in, I remember everyone would come to the store and be like, yo, have you seen Mad Max yet? It is like the most amazing thing ever. And then, you wait for it to come out on home video. Maybe I didn't watch it on a big sound or a big screen, or maybe I watched it on a teeny screen. Maybe I downloaded a copy. Who knows? But this movie is great. I think, Rob, I am actually going to purchase this. I think I'm actually going to get the black and chrome edition that comes with both, because I feel like we'll get into it later. I think we want to talk a little bit about the sound and the VFX later. But let's talk quickly about, did it feel like a reboot or a sequel? You guys in the comments, let us know. To me, this feels like a sequel. It doesn't feel like a reboot. I think they wanted to spin it in the media as a reboot to get more eyes and more people willing to see it, who probably were like, what the F is a Mad Max? But this does feel like a sequel that just got all twisted because they missed their timing. They missed the gap or the timing that would have Mel Gibson step into this fourth movie and be able to play the grizzled veteran Mad Max who kind of steps in. And then when we talk about casting, we're going to talk a little bit about Furiosa and the idea that maybe you can pull Mad Max out of this movie and still have a good movie. But Rob, did you get that feeling at all, or did it feel like a brand new, fresh reboot to you?
No, it felt like a sequel as well, because at the beginning of the movie, he's got the long hair and he talks about what he was. I used to be a cop and this and that, and I used to, comb the wasteland and this and that. If it was a reboot, we would have had a much more clear picture of why he was doing what he was doing. There's no motivation, and it took me a while to remember those flashbacks he was having, those flashes. That was his child. That was essentially, it was murdered in the first movie, right? So
I don't know if it's supposed to be the same character. If actually, if you're interested, the comic book I showed you at the beginning kind of retools all the history. I didn't get a chance to reread it, but it basically takes all the history and kind of reworks it to fit this new Tom Hardy version of Mad Max, and kind of rewrite the Mel Gibson. But everything I listened to, it was not. No one ever said that was a flashback to any of the previous movies. It was kind of like it's kind of weird.
Well, I didn't know who it was. I wasn't understanding.
No, and it never gets explained. Yeah.
And so I just assumed it must be his daughter or something. I was like, how many times have we seen that, right? Where somebody's having a those flashbacks or whatever it is of their spouse or of a child or whatever that they've lost, like talking to them in a dream sequence. I was like, okay, that must be what it is. I don't know. So, but yeah, so anyway, it did not feel like a reboot. It felt like a sequel.
Yeah.
But I think there probably could have been a little bit more exposition because it's just a long time, 85 to 2015. That's 30 years. Like there could have been a little bit more information.
Yeah, I suspect it was studio pressures that made them because every time you hear, like I went back and watched a lot of the interviews, and Miller always has to basically say this is a reboot, kind of like try to get people into it. But I feel like he was just saying it because the studio was like, hey, say it's a reboot, but in his heart he knew that it's not a reboot. Dino says, sequel following the same idea. I think he's on point here, where basically it uses the idea of Mad Max, that he is this wandering vagrant, which is a typical hero type that we follow a lot, the wandering samurai or the in westerns we follow the same type of character. So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of a sequel, but not really a sequel. So I just thought that would be like an interesting point of discussion. But let's get a little bit into the cast, since we've already touched on it, Rob. Could you take Tom Hardy out of this movie, and should it have been Furiosa's movie? Like Charlize Theron kills it in this, right? So much so that she could have removed all her dialogue and still come off as a powerful performance, right?
Yeah. Well, I have good news for you, John. They are currently filming Furiosa, the prequel.
Yeah, but it's not her, right? It's going to be someone new.
I think it's Anna Taylor-Joy or something.
Yeah, because it's a prequel. Because originally, I told you, I don't know if you mentioned it. This was supposed to be a 3-pronged release. It was supposed to be the movie. Yeah. It was supposed to be an anime, which I guess is what this Furiosa movie is coming from, and the video game. And I don't know if we're going to have time to touch on the video game, but interesting things went down with that video game. But who else is Charlize, like the star of this movie? Should she have been front and center on the poster?
Yeah, I think she totally could have been. Yeah, I think Miller wrote a really interesting part for her. And during my research today, John, supposedly he had brought on a playwright to oversee a lot of the dialogue, and then brought in somebody to talk about strong female empowerment and the history of and I'm really paraphrasing here, but the history of like abuse to women and rising up and this and that, to really
he literally brought on experts in the field.
I think. to explain to the cast motivations, the ground, to explain why this character is so motivated. And I thought that was like phenomenal. I mean, there's Zoe Kravitz, right? Like I completely had forgotten on the left there that Zoe Kravitz was in this movie. Too, also makes me wonder, does she ever have long hair? Because she's always got has her short hair from Catwoman. But yeah, man, I mean, I agree. I think Charlize Theron was she takes so many different roles, man. She's so many different things.
So diverse
and so versatile. Yeah.
In the roles that she takes, in the ways that she plays it, and she's not afraid to take the hits and.
But think about it, like she was
beat up and all kinds of stuff.
No, I mean, we know her a lot from the Fast and Furious movies. We saw her in the end of Doctor Strange, like Multiverse of Madness, the Dark Horse comic,
Old Guard.
The Old Guard, which she's currently filming the sequel for, like this Atomic Blonde. Like
Atomic Blonde, she got she got beat up and her face was messed up, and normally they don't do that to a lead actress, and she is so powerful that she can roll with that.
Yeah, she is absolutely versatile, and she won an Oscar for Monster, right? So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any other standouts in the cast for you, Rob? I did like I don't know who this guy was. I think he's played by Nathan Jones. I forgot what his name was, but he was like the weirdo son, and he's like, I had a baby brother.
Yeah,
and he was perfect in every way.
Perfect. And then Nicholas Hoult played the other, I guess
I think he's called Stitch or Suture, or like Slats or something. Slats or something. He's the one that dies first, right? And Knox is the guy.
He's well, he makes it towards the end. He was the guy that's trying to.
Oh, is he the main? Is he the main war boy or whatever? I don't remember. One
guy.
One of them is played by the guy who plays young William Stryker. He dies early, right?
No, this is Beast.
Okay.
This guy plays Hank McCoy in the.
Oh, okay. I remember now.
Yeah. This is Hank McCoy in the X-Men First Class and
So
all
they had
those.
Stryker and McCoy in this.
Yeah. So yeah, he was pretty cool as well. But yeah, you know what? To be honest with you, I would give this up to. It's a Furiosa movie, man. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah, no, like I feel like everyone. I don't know. Like I feel like the weakest was probably Tom Hardy.
Very weird voice.
Yeah. His accent kept changing. I think they had to dub over it lots of times because of the issues that I think you were speaking about before. And he probably didn't know what was going on. Maybe the part was still written for Mel Gibson or whatever. So it didn't quite. Yeah, he turned out to be the weakest. I feel like he turned out to be the weakest character of the movie. Although he did get to do a lot of cool stuff too. So interesting. But yeah, so yeah, great cast overall, I think. It reminded me a little bit. I know you didn't like Bullet Train as much as I did, but it reminded me a little bit about Bullet Train, how they had all these different kind of larger than life characters kind of thrown in. They had the weird guy with the binoculars and the he's like a dwarf or like a weird like grown up baby or something like that.
Yeah, I think he was yeah.
So yeah, okay. Let's talk a little bit about the sound and VFX. So we know, Rob, sound, music, dated looking VFX can really take us out of when we rewatch older movies. This movie's not that old, granted, but what did you think? This is your boy, right? Junkie XL or whatever his name is.
I think that's who it was, right? Was it Junkie XL?
Yeah, it was him. Yeah.
But I think this is a movie. Listen, I think because, as we said at the beginning, 90% of it is practical effects. The special effects were really kind of tied to the color timing, with the in the desert, the storms. Because again, it's a scorched earth, right? Judge Dredd, scorched earth, and the clouds. But because it's practical, I think this is a timeless movie. Like, I really don't. I think you're going to be very hard pressed to look at this 20 years from now and be like, oh, it looks so cheap. I think it's, and the sound of it, I don't think, John, it's going to have the same problems that I had with Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
All right. Shout out to our Terminator 2 review. Some jokes in there. But yeah, the sound works. There was no pop hit track in the mix, so that nothing is going to kind of put it in its
it won't date
time bracket or date it. The VFX, like you said, is all solid. There is a couple shots towards the end. You know, the one where I think Knox flips the truck and then all the stuff comes out and then the guitar comes out and the steering wheel comes out. That looks dated, but if you watch, someone posted a comparison between the regular version and the black and chrome version, and the black and chrome version of that scene looks amazing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. If you go check the comparison, so some of those things will be corrected if you end up getting the black and chrome version. That's why I think I might pick that up, just because it does look pretty fly if you watch the clips online. But so this movie is, I think it is, like, you're right, it's going to stand the test of time. You're going to be able to watch this. All those cars, they were really doing the stuff. There's a whole bunch of behind the scenes featurettes of them racing these cars around at like hundreds of miles per hour, which is ridiculous. And all the stuff they do to the cars is really cool. I know you're not a super car guy, Rob, but what did you think of all these like big engines?
Listen, man, like, I appreciate the muscle cars of yesteryear. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, when you're walking, there's a couple of guys in my neighborhood who have like those old school, the 60s and 70s muscle cars, and I'm walking the dog and I hear the rumbling of their V8 engine, and I'm like, oh, it rumbles through like your chest cavity. Like, so I love that. So, like, I can really appreciate that. Right. So, I thought it was all great. I loved how resourceful everybody was in rebuilding these vehicles to make them roadworthy. Do you know what I'm saying? He's like, "Are you a
black thumb or whatever?" And then the guy goes to work on the engine. And then there's that one point where Furiosa like starts working on the car while it's the what's it called, the war rig or whatever.
Yeah, the war rig.
While it's still going, she's like, I'm gonna go, work on the thing, and then she's like crawling underneath it and working on it while it's still rolling.
Yeah,
I can't imagine anyone doing that. Fraser, let me know if you've ever done that.
And in fact, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but in one of her pedals, it was the foot sizer that, you know, when you go to the shoe store and you put your feet in that little metal, that was what the pedal was in one of the like.
It's actually genius. At one point, she cranks it, she pushes it down, and kicks out the side, which is, I guess, measures the width of your foot.
Yeah,
to lock the pedal in place.
Yeah,
which is like the attention to detail in this type of movie, like, and you know that tree of like steering wheels and stuff that all the war boys had. How beautiful would that thing be to put in your living room or something?
Not my living room, but
well, it'd be cool if they had an art display and that, and then we're gonna have this steering wheels from Mad Max in there. I would go to see that exhibit. So shout outs to that. So I think let's go on to like our favorite scenes then. So you guys in the comments, let us know. I think the two main scenes up for nomination are definitely the going into the sandstorm scene, which looks incredible with the colors and stuff. That's why I'm kind of torn. Like, do I watch it in the black and chrome, or do I watch it in the color and see all the red and all those colors that they had going on in there, and the lights and the explosions and the fire? And then especially the whole end sequence, 100% for sure, is like top of my list as well, where they're kind of crawling across the cars and the Nathan Jones character picks up the engine and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, any favorite scenes of yours that
well,
that
I will say,
out?
so I mean, yes, I love it's one big car chase movie. And
yeah,
you know,
it's like Speed, right?
But when car chases are done really well, like you're really invested, like the Italian Job, like when you see even Ronin, remember with Robert De Niro, right? Like you watch these movies and these car chase scenes are just phenomenal. So this whole entire movie is high octane car chase scene. I will say I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's my favorite scene, but it's one of the ones that stand out for me because the way they dispatched it's Imodin Joe. Imodin. I don't know why Imodin, but whatever. It wasn't like, okay, he's your bad guy, but it wasn't one of those typical things where the car flips, he's lying there and he's, you know, trying to suck oxygen and Max walks up and puts a, you know, or a Furiosa and blows his brains out. Like it wasn't like that.
Steps on his neck or something. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't something like that, right? It was literally like, you know, while driving the vehicle. That's how everybody died while driving.
Yeah,
right?
they didn't even stop. They didn't stop. I think they threw his mask and it got caught in the wheels.
Yeah, she on the chain.
She used her arm. I think it was her arm.
Yeah,
and the whole and the leather straps around her waist that she attached to him,
and it just ripped his
face. I'm glad they didn't get too graphic with that. Some filmmakers would have shown like all the nastiness that went on, but
like I think Eli Roth, he would have shown, and then everything would have been hanging there and zoomed up on his face. But no, man, I really appreciated, and that was it. And there wasn't like any fanfare or anything else of that. It was like, dude's dead. And that was it.
Very Jack Reacher like, right? You know, Jack Reacher just takes out his enemy and then that's it. No speech, no nothing. But even the setup for this character, like the whole scene, he's putting on this weird clear armor. He's got all these weird swords, like he's like that guy, like the king from Game of Thrones right now, or whatever that guy. Where like he's got all this weird stuff on him. He puts on this gas mask and like look at the teeth on that thing, and like just the whole design, like the design of this. I feel like you could watch this movie in silence and you'd still be like, wow.
Yeah, right? And I mean the whole idea. I mean, he's going after it was his what he called his top breeders, right? Like
his brides or whatever.
Yeah, because he uses them to he essentially he breeds them to bear his children over and over and over and over again. Like it's crazy, right? Yeah, man. I thought that his dispatching scene was absolutely fantastic. And at the very end, when Max walks off and he disappears, he doesn't need thanks, doesn't need recognition. He's like, I'm like the littlest hobo.
I think that was a cool exit for him. Kind of, he just gets lost in the crowd. It's kind of like you got this. I think the original ending for this movie has him basically falling in love with Furiosa and going up in the elevator or whatever the hell it is. But that 100% wouldn't have worked for this particular movie.
No,
I think he said he filmed it. Miller said he filmed it and watched it and was like, "What am I doing?" And then quickly changed it or something like that. So thank God for that. So overall, this movie, I think you wouldn't really change much. Maybe you would work out the Tom Hardy stuff a little bit better. Maybe a consistent accent or just a consistent path for the character.
I just don't know why Tom Hardy. I mean, listen, he's a great actor, but he seems to always use a different type of voice, or like,
yeah, it's like he's trying to collect all these accents or vocal performances, right? It's weird, right?
Yeah.
I do. Oh, there's one scene where he wakes up from a dream, and they like these hands grabbing his face, and then he wakes up and he's gonna like fight the room or something. That was a funny scene. That was
funny. He's in the car, right? And he wakes up and he like that, and Fiore's just looking at him like, "What do you think you're doing?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, shout out to this. Yeah, the favorite. Fraser mentions the bog, and the tank track car. Yeah, that was a great scene too. Yeah, and it was like all in like this weird fog, and they had this tree. And they were using the winch.
The tree of woe, John.
Yeah. Using this winch to pull it out, and they were kind of working together. And then the tank track guy, man, it was pretty cool to see that thing fly over the mud because it was a half tank.
And then Mad Max got the sniper rifle. There's 3 shots left.
Yeah, and
he fires 2 shots, and he can't. The car's coming at them, and the guy is like on the top, and he's like, with his double machine guns. And Furiosa kind of like nudges him, like, "Give me the damn gun."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Don't." And then she rested on his shoulder, and she's like, "Don't breathe." And you can see he's like that. And then the sound of the bullet, and then you can hear the tinnitus in his ear, the ringing in his ear, right? Because this thing fired right next to his ear. And the light blows out the truck, and the guy's blind, and he puts the cloth over his eyes. Like, justice. Somebody put it up in the things here in the comments, because I am justice, or what? I am the scale of justice. Yeah. And he's just firing off, right? Like, I was like, this is so bananas.
Yeah, I think like they're all great. So even the intro, like, what do you think of the whole, like, they did like a motion speed up, and you can 100% tell it's going on, right? Like they kind of like move a little, like they're on like 1.5 speed or whatever. I felt it actually really worked. It kind of helped move things along, so you didn't have to slog through certain scenes, and it actually gave a little bit of like a comical feel to it.
Yeah, so George Miller had shot stuff actually in so usually I think movies are filmed at 60 frames per second. I might be wrong. Yeah. Anyways, he shot them at a higher rate of frame rate to kind of speed things up. And then for certain scenes, he shot them real slow, like 30 frames per second, because he wanted people to be able to focus on certain things that he thought they might miss. So he played with timing very consistently throughout this movie, right? To really draw, to draw your attention to certain things, and then to make scenes move faster, which is like, I mean, the metaphors are about, I mean, it's right in the movie. It's a car chase movie, and it's high octane, and speed is its game. And yet he's playing with slow and fast speeds to be able to propel you through the story. I mean, it's just, man, just phenomenal, right?
Yeah. It's crazy. I actually want to fire it up again, but I think I'm going to try and get a copy of this black and chrome edition, which it is in our affiliate links in the bottom. A great way to help support the show. It doesn't cost you anything, and they give us a little kind of kickback. I will shout out again this comic book, which I said fills in the gaps, and I think the artist is the same guy who worked on a lot of the storyboards and things like that. And then this art book, like, I can't wait to get a copy of this. I didn't have one on hand to flip through, but I think it's got a lot of the designs for the vehicles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So really crazy. And I do want to shout out, like you mentioned at the top of the show, the Cirque du Soleil performers, who 100% were those people on the poles for sure, flying back and forth. Because I've seen them do that during their shows. So they're like, oh yeah, why don't we just do this pole thing, which is a pretty dangerous weapon when you think about it. Imagine an enemy just being able to fly over and grab whatever and swing back on this weird pendulum stick thingy. So
I'll take that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, literally, you could just grab your food and you wouldn't be able to eat. Like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do when the bad guy swings over and takes your food? But anyways, Rob, anything else we want to say about this movie other than I think we did quite enjoy it on this rewatch?
Yeah, I'm really glad we gave it a rewatch. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of dragging my feet getting like taking the time to fire it up, because I was like, I just kept thinking about how much I didn't like it the first time I saw it. Mm-hmm. Completely blown away, man. A whole new movie for me. So I'm very glad we got to rewatch. It was a hell of a lot of fun, man. It was a lot more fun than I had anticipated going in. That's what I love doing this, John, is because Sometimes when you think, I don't know, and then you realize, like, holy shit, like, look at you. How many times have we watched movies where it's completely out of your wheelhouse and it surprised you how much you've enjoyed it?
Oh, yeah. No, I've definitely expanded my
so I love this movie. So I'm really glad that you mentioned it.
I think it's great. Yeah. I had the same feeling that you had. And I was like, remember what I think it popped up when we were looking up sequels and stuff, when you're like, oh, best sequel. And it's, oh, Fury Road. And I think a bunch of people mentioned it in the comments, and we're kind of like, whatever. It was cool. Right. But now it is 100% would be on my list. And I feel like it is. I think some people say it's one of the best action movies in the last decade or whatever. And then I think it does belong in that category on sheer action alone. Even if you had issues with the storyline and things like that. But thank you everybody for sticking with us for Mad Max Fury Road. I think we've got a bunch of other exciting things to happen next. Rob, we're on the brink of, what are we on the brink of? Halloween?
We're on the brink of Halloween, but before that, John, before I forget, we brought it up. We're on the brink of
what?
Reacher season 2. Started filming in and around Toronto. So our boy's back. He's filming right now, season 2.
Yes, Alan Richardson. I guess he wrapped up his Fast and the Furious stint, and is back to Reacher. So I can't wait for that to drop. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
We are on the brink, John. It's hard to believe, bro. This is the last Monday of September. In fact, I think this coming Saturday, John, is going to be October the 1st. What is happening? What is happening, John? We're going to be hitting Thanksgiving in 2 weeks. I do not know what's happening with the time, but because we are stepping into October, it generally means it's a time, boys and girls, when you turn your lights down and you get yourself all nice and up on the couch, and you get yourself some popcorn, and you put on some scary Halloween movies. And for John and I,
it's like the Silent Storm with Rob late night on radio. Welcome
to the Heroes World Sidekick Show. But we are, I guess you could say, we are celebrating Halloween movies, or at least kind of like our twist on the seasonal fanfare. John, what do you say?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we've got I dubbed it the Sidekick Show, Spooktacular October.
Boy.
Rob and I have picked a bunch of movies that are, I believe, all available on streaming, or did we have?
They are all available on streaming. Although Blade 2 has been coming and going, so we'll have a better understanding of that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I feel like most of us will own a copy of Blade 2, but this is our October schedule, folks. So we like to do horror themed movies. So we picked a bunch of fun ones for you. I had a lot of fun. Was it last year we did Drag Me to Hell and all that stuff?
It was. Yeah.
Has it been a whole year?
I think so.
Crap.
Yeah, and so we
wanted to just watch that.
Yeah, and so I don't know, John. We were like, hey, let's watch the Batman. We haven't rewatched that, and I was like, wait a minute, didn't we just do that in like April or whatever? So,
we were gonna put the Batman on here, weren't we?
But we had already done. We just did it.
Oh, we've already done a re-talk about Batman.
We forget, John.
All right, yeah.
So many things. We watch so many things throughout the course of a year. We forget. So we decided to say, hey, man, let's take a bunch of movies that, at least are available for streaming, and with things that we want to rewatch, some new and old. Listen, we talked about the fact that there's a new Constantine movie coming out, and we knew we got to throw on the original Constantine. Multiverse of Madness is on there. We haven't discussed it since it dropped on streaming. And what the hell? What's Halloween with a little bit of Ghostbusters? But the most important thing is that we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun. And if you're looking at the dates going, wait a minute, something's not right with that math. John, did you make a mistake? He did not. Because the last Monday of October is 31st, which is Halloween. And John and I are parents, and we're going to be taking our kids out trick-or-treating. Or, as I like to say, go get me some candy, kids. So we are actually going to do a very special Halloween and a Devil's Night. A Devil's Night show on the 30th, which is Sunday evening. But
normally we would watch The Crow, but we have done a whole bunch of Crow coverage. So we'll see The Crow come back maybe next October. We'll save that. So we are opening with Brightburn, right, Rob? Neither of us seen it.
No.
So we figured it's kind of a mystery box. We're not sure if it's going to be hot or not. So hopefully you guys can tune in and watch that with us. Followed by Constantine, which Rob mentioned. Keanu Reeves just announced or stated he signed on to do a follow-up. So we're going to go revisit that, see if it's fun. Multiverse of Madness. I'm interested to see if I'm still as hyped for this movie on the second watch as I was on the first watch.
I'm interested to see if I'll actually enjoy it more than I did.
Yeah,
I didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah. And then yes, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I haven't seen since it dropped in theaters. And man, did that movie punch you right in the heart.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen that, get your tissues ready, especially towards the final sequence. And then Blade 2, we're gonna finally answer that question. Is Blade 2 better than Blade 1? I think we watched Blade 1 last year, or did we just watch it for the fun of it?
No, we did. It was about a year and a half ago, but we did see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of, John? When I was a little kid, growing up in the small town of Uxbridge at the time, they didn't have a movie theater, and so what they would do is every season they would put on like 6 movies, and you would watch it at the local library, and you sat on the floor, and they would put a reel-to-reel machine on. That's how I watched Back to the Future quite a few times, sitting on a wooden floor, and they would always put up these little posters of what was coming out, so you knew that's what you've made, John. I love this. This is near and dear to my heart. You are sitting here telling me what we're going to be watching for the next 5 weeks, and that just brings me a whole bunch of joy. So thanks for doing that. Man.
We're gonna try this out, and maybe we'll add a bonus week in November, and then get to what was it that was just mentioned? Evil Dead. I really want to get to an Evil Dead, but it's not streaming anywhere. I want to do Evil Dead 2. So as soon as that drops on streaming, and Lost Boys was in the running, but it's not streaming on anything either.
So but you know what's weird about that is I took a look, and on iTunes, John, they have a 4K version, but you can only rent it. You can't buy it. So I think it's being remastered and re-released this year. So I think that's what's happening. But yes,
all right. So
at one time we will get to those movies.
Yeah. All right. So shout outs. Yeah, Lewis and Dino are talking about their Lego Ecto ones. So shout outs to that. Definitely check those two guys out on your Instagram or YouTube. They have a lot of fun Lego related content. So thank you everybody for tuning in.
John,
Rob,
Brightburn is on Netflix. We just got to mention that.
Yeah. All these are on Netflix or Prime.
Yeah.
The only exception is Blade 2, which I feel like all of you should own. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I own it on Blu-ray, where you can get it. But thank you very much, everybody. I think that's all we got for you tonight. So thanks for giving us your Monday. I don't know what is going on with my internet, so I'm gonna have to try and switch.
Why? You're fine.
No, I think we've been lagging a little bit. I think we've been lagging out a little bit. So I've been having all kinds of internet issues because Rogers is the only provider in this area. If Bell was available, I would be switching to Bell. So shout outs to Bell.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in and for joining. If you haven't had an opportunity to check out the Heroes World podcast, myself, Stu, and John, we did a review of Cobra Kai season 5. We talked about that. And we got a pretty cool one coming up this week. So definitely please hit your notification bells, hit your subscription. When new videos drop, you will be notified, and you'll something kind of cool happening later this week. So we'll yeah. John's like, I'm not sure, but we'll find out. But yeah,
I'll give it a go. It always happens. I'll give it a go.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate it, buddy. It's been a lot of fun hanging out tonight.
All right. Peace out, guys. Thank you,
everybody.